And we are about to witness a first in American history. Former President Donald Trump will surrender to authorities in Manhattan on criminal charges. He is the first former president ever indicted. And as he prepares to head to court, the tension across the city is building right now. Here's a live look at Trump Tower. That's where the former president has been since he arrived from Florida yesterday afternoon. Spent the night there, and in just a couple hours, he is due in court in Lower Manhattan. Let's get a live look now where it's much more chaotic outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. We've seen protesters and gawkers moving in all morning, a lot of media there as well. And there's been some pushing and shoving. At this point, though, no word on any arrests. And take a look at this. Long Island Congressman George Santos arrived at the courthouse just about an hour ago. He got swarmed, a lot of chaos around him with reporters and people holding up their cameras. And then George Santos quickly took off. We have live team coverage of President Trump's arraignment day, from Trump Tower to that scene in Lower Manhattan. Let's start with News 4's Gus Rosendale, live at the courthouse. And Gus, certainly getting more chaotic over there. What can you tell us?
Well, Adam, there's no question we're certainly hitting the spectacle phase of today's proceedings. Big crowds gathering here along Center Street just outside the courthouse. Up in the courtroom, all the seats have already been taken, about 50 seats, mostly by journalists who camped out overnight to get those seats. But it's very clear that many people, hundreds, if not thousands of people, want to be near history in the making. Now, here's a bit more about what we know about what's going to be happening inside the courthouse shortly. Former President Donald Trump will be formally arraigned following a roughly 30-count sealed indictment. The case involving alleged hush money payments made to adult film star Stormy Daniels prior to the 2016 election. Now, Trump, as you know, has denied any wrongdoing, and he has already criticized the DA and judge on social media. Now, the judge has already ruled that there'll be no TV cameras in court, but still cameras will be allowed. So you will see those images later today. We know that Trump will be fingerprinted, but there'll be no mugshot or DNA swab. And then details of the indictment are expected to be released online following this unprecedented court appearance.
They will read the top charges and say, and related accounts, at which time the judge will say to Mr. Trump, how do you plead? Mr. Trump will enter his plea. We assume it'll be not guilty.
A not guilty plea, typical in a case like this. So Mr. Trump will be released without bail. Again, typical in a case involving charges like this. But then again, there is nothing typical about what will go on and is going on right now. Continuing our team coverage, my colleague Erica Byfield is not too far from where I am. She's keeping an eye on some of the rallies and protests we've already seen unfold this morning. Erica?
Yeah, Gus, here on the scene in the middle of the protest. We're actually standing in the middle of the park where they have the protesters divided. One side is for the group that supports the former president, the other side that does not, and they're glad to see this indictment happening. But let me step out of the way so you can get a better vantage point of what I'm seeing right now from this Collect Pond Park here, just right in front of 100 Center Street. The people that you're looking at right there on your screen, those are the people who support the former president, and the people off to the left, those are the ones who are here because they say, you can see a sign right there off in the distance that says Trump arrested, Trump indicted. Take a look. Just moments ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene was here in the middle of this crowd. She was surrounded by cameras. She was surrounded by people here who wanted to be here to hear her message. Again, you probably remember that she said that she was going to be here at 10:30 in support of the former president. It was actually kind of hard to hear what she was saying given the activity that was going on here, but she spoke, I would say, for about 10 to 15 minutes from a megaphone. Then she was able to hop in a waiting SUV, a white SUV, sped her out of this direction away from the courthouse. Just before that, something else happened. We saw another lawmaker here. Take a look at this. This is George Santos. He was milling among the crowd. We were asking him why he was here today. He told our cameras that he wanted to be here, again, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, in support of the former president because he is against the indictment that he now faces, the 45th president of the United States. The crowd, take a look at everything else we shot. The crowd here is huge. I have to tell you, at this point, it's been loud but peaceful. A lot of people that we talked to on either side told us that's exactly what they wanted to see. They say that this is a historic moment, so they wanted to be here on the ground right in front of this courthouse before the president shows up. Here's a little bit of what we heard today.
I feel like he's just been getting away with a lot that normal people like me will never be able to get away with. And I just come to see him go to jail.
I'm thinking that he is going to be found innocent. We should put the district attorney in Guantanamo Bay.
He's a really sick individual, and there's a lot of people around him who are also apparently depraved enough that they will sustain him.
He's been doing good for America people, we the people. So I see everything is. I don't know, everything is good. When he was 4 years was a president.
I mean, President Trump has gotten away with so much for so long. This is the first step in the potential justice.
So the other thing that we're seeing out here in force, that's the police presence. I can see them, a lot of them in uniform mixed among the crowd. We heard that yesterday from the mayor and the police commissioner. That was something that they were going to guarantee New Yorkers because, again, they said the message was control yourself, make sure that this was a peaceful protest, no matter who you're here to represent. I would imagine we're seeing a similar scene uptown. I'm going to toss it over now to my colleague, Gabi Acevedo. He's outside of Trump Tower. Gabi, what are you seeing there?
Thank you, Erica. Right now, security is tight around Trump Tower. Barricades have been set up along Fifth Avenue, and there's already lots of police in the area. Mr. Trump is expected to leave within the next few hours on his way to surrender at a courtroom in Lower Manhattan. Now, throughout this morning, we have seen some Trump supporters walking around the area, while others have been stopping across the street from Trump Tower to take videos and pictures, a combination of curious onlookers and people supporting the former president ahead of his arraignment and the expected unsealing of the 30-count indictment. Looking ahead to the next few hours, some roads will be shut down to make way for Trump's motorcade to Lower Manhattan, which is why city officials are asking people to use mass transit. Also, keep in mind that this is an all-around team effort with NYPD officers, courtroom officers, and U.S. Marshals, with Secret Service agents leading the way during the motorcade ride, about a 4-mile drive from Midtown to the courthouse. Everything has been carefully planned with the possibility of public rallies over the next hour. Some, as you have already heard, have started down in Lower Manhattan. Now, as we bring you back live here to the scene in Trump Tower, police are clearing the area so that people don't huddle too close to the sidewalk near Trump Tower. Mayor Adams said that today marks an unprecedented legal event, a historic moment, another one for the city of New York, hosting all these media members from the media from around the world behind me, and hundreds of people who will watch things unfold. Reporting live from Midtown, Gabi Acevedo, back to you, Adam.
Okay, Gabi, thank you. And as we wait for the former president to leave Trump Tower there, let's bring in News 4 chief investigative reporter Jonathan Deans to break down what we expect to unfold in court in just a couple of hours. Jonathan.
Yeah, so as Gabi was explaining, the former president, expected to leave Trump Tower around 12:45, 1 o'clock, head down to 1 Hogan Place, where he will surrender to the district attorney's office. That's where he'll be fingerprinted. During that time, the top levels of that courthouse are going to be cleared. It's going to be shut down, and it's just going to be the Trump courtroom and the overflow rooms that are provided for the press. There's going to be a major security sweep of the entire building, again, by court officers, by the NYPD bomb squad, by other security officials, to make sure everything is safe and secure, all in gearing up for that 2:15 court hearing, the arraignment of the former president. And as we explained, there are no television cameras in that courtroom, only a couple of still cameras for the first part, and then the court proceeding will begin. We will not hear anything about what is happening in there because the judge has forbid the use of cell phones or laptops to send out emails or texts while the proceeding is going on. So we'll have to wait till the hearing ends to hear about what happened inside the courtroom from the reporters who are gathered there. And then later in the afternoon, after that hearing, will Donald Trump, as he leaves, stop in the hallway where there are television cameras to say anything, or is he going to be escorted right out to his vehicle and be driven straight to LaGuardia Airport for his departure from New York? 3:30 this afternoon. That is when the district attorney is planning to hold his news conference. And in advance of that news conference, after the court hearing ends, the DA's office will be sending out a press release with the indictment explaining the charges. So that's when we'll also learn more about what's exactly in that 30-plus criminal complaint, that indictment that has been handed up. And then finally, tonight, after Donald Trump arrives back in Florida, he will be having his own news conference, his own statement at 8:15 from Mar-a-Lago. So that's sort of the tick-tock of how things are going to go this afternoon and this evening, Adam.
Okay, very good to know. It's about to all unfold. Jonathan Deans, thank you so much. And be sure to stay with News 4 for complete coverage of former President Trump's surrender and arraignment today. We're going to bring you every single development throughout the day. You can also download the NBC4 New York app for any up-to-the-minute alerts.